In this video, I will give you an update on James Fox's upcoming documentary, The Program. James ain't messing around. He even said that he would twist himself into a pretzel if necessary to get this doc released in the fall. In that light, let's cover some of his tweets from September 1st. A quick update on release. We are 99% sure an additional executive producer stepped forward, wants to remain anonymous, and will put up the $200,000 needed to release the program fully independently. Trailer should be done in about a week to 10 days. Artwork and metadata starts this week, as does the QC process, quality control I assume, through an aggregator. I will keep you all posted. I will bend myself into a pretzel if needed to release the documentary this fall. Later, he was asked explicitly when his documentary will drop, and his response was late October or early November. So as of now, we have about 2 months to go. Here he goes into some of the expenses he's dealing with. This is only half of what we have to pay for the trailer, and it doesn't include the score, which is another $5 to $10K. Then we have public relations firm, social media, ad space, a whole team for 2 months to provide the support needed to do this right. We got this. From that tweet, it looks like the trailer will set him back over $50,000. And here is a review by the foremost expert on the UFO and Nuke Connection. James Fox's new film, The Program, is everything we expect from the one ufological filmmaker who arguably has no peer. One could watch dozens of newscasts and podcasts to get a sense of where we are and where we seem to be going, or just watch The Program. Robert Hastings, the author of UFOs and Nukes. I love this review. It's really difficult to have a grasp of how far we've come if you haven't been following all the updates along the way. Fox's upcoming film, The Program, will apparently crystallize not only what the current state of affairs are with the disclosure process, but also where we seem to be headed. Fox has publicly stated that he has spoken with first-hand witnesses, some of whom are no longer employed, and others who are still working either within the US government or as contractors for the government. That's really significant to me. Some would couch his upcoming documentary and other anticipated escalations as nothing more than holding a carrot in front of our faces. Allow me to push back on that perspective because I think it's just wrong. For starters, Lue Elizondo recently said, as I recall, that we've made more progress in the past 6 years than we have in the past 60 years. And George Knapp said he agreed with that sentiment. Knapp has also said in the past that he never thought he'd see in his lifetime the progress we have made. The reason this is significant is because George Knapp knows what he's talking about. He's been at this a long, long time, and I think he understands the dynamics of UFO history as well as anybody. He is no newbie, that's for sure. Even Robert Hastings, the premier expert on the UFO Nuke Connection, is clear about the progress we've made. In an article titled, "I literally wrote the book on the UFO nuclear connection, Why is the government hiding what it knows?" published on July 2nd, 2021, he wrote, "The US government's recent unidentified flying objects report is unprecedented. It acknowledges for the first time that some UFOs, or what the US government refers to as unidentified aerial phenomena, appear to be real, ultra-advanced craft of unknown origin. Going back 70 years, virtually every statement by the US military had dismissed the phenomenon as misidentified known objects, such as weather balloons or optical illusions or hoaxes. Put simply, the new report is a major departure from the past policy of denial and obfuscation. But that candor only goes so far. The report completely ignores the elephant in the room. Hundreds of reports from military veterans, most of whom I have interviewed myself, involved UFO activity at nuclear weapons sites, including the mysterious disabling of our intercontinental ballistic missiles. The UFO Nuke Connection is clearly an important, if not the most important aspect of UFO interaction with the US military. So, while we still have a long way to go before humanity receives the full truth about the UFO issue, nobody can deny the progress we've made. Yes, I have no doubt there is a UFO nuke connection to non-human intelligence, if that's what it is, which I believe it is. I also believe it's essential that the US government and others be open about this reality. We deserve to have this conversation. This is our world as much as it is the world of government employees, and the governments are supposed to serve us anyways. Now, I understand that some people might see James Fox's upcoming documentary and other similar efforts as just another round of carrot chasing, something that keeps us engaged but never quite delivers the truth we all seek. But let's take a moment to look at the bigger picture and how these documentaries, along with recent legislative developments, fit into the larger effort toward UFO transparency. Let me be absolutely clear. I am not suggesting that the push for UFO disclosure is anywhere near as significant or important as the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was about fundamental human rights, justice, and equality, issues of the utmost importance that shape the very fabric of society. The comparison I'm making here is solely about the process of achieving progress, not the issues themselves. Throughout history, movements that achieved real change often did so in steps, sometimes small, sometimes monumental. In the civil rights movement, it wasn't one single event that ended segregation and secured voting rights for African Americans. It was a series of actions, each building on the last. Marches, sit-ins, speeches, and court cases. All of these were critical stepping stones that together led to landmark changes like the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Similarly, in the push for UFO disclosure, each documentary, each whistleblower account, each new piece of evidence, and even legislative efforts like the proposed UAP Disclosure Act that hasn't yet passed in full, but has partially passed, are akin to those stepping stones. It's easy to dismiss them as insignificant on their own, but collectively, they push the needle forward. For example, the July 26, 2023 congressional hearing, where former Air Force intelligence officer David Grush testified under oath about an alleged multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, was a historic moment. This testimony, coupled with the proposed UAP Disclosure Act, signals that we are in a critical phase of this process. These are not just isolated events. They are part of a broader movement toward transparency. Imagine if people had dismissed each step in the civil rights movement as just carrot chasing. We wouldn't have seen the progress that was ultimately achieved. The same logic applies here. Dismissing these developments in the UFO field is not only short-sighted, but it also undermines the progress that has already been made and the potential for future breakthroughs. Documentaries like the program and legislative efforts such as the UAP Disclosure Act serve an essential role in raising awareness, applying pressure, and keeping the conversation alive. They educate the public, bring new facts to light, and ensure that those in power remain accountable. Public awareness and legislative action are critical components of any successful movement because without them, there is no accountability. These films, whistleblower testimonies, and legislative initiatives keep the pressure on, ensuring that the momentum toward transparency continues to grow. So, while we may still be some distance from full disclosure, we shouldn't underestimate the importance of these stepping stones. Just like in any significant movement for change, every piece of the puzzle is crucial. The documentaries, the whistleblowers, the investigations, and now even proposed laws like the UAP Disclosure Act, each one adds weight to the growing demand for the truth. And in the end, it's that cumulative pressure that will lead to the outcome we're all hoping for, referred to as UFO confirmation or UFO disclosure. Let's shift gears a little bit. On August 30th, 2024, Christopher Mellon wrote, "I share Dr. Loeb's view regarding the need to courageously seek the facts rather than averting our gaze from issues which challenge our present thinking or circumstances." Avi Loeb's article is titled, "Is Scientific Information Welcome?" I will read 2 excerpts from this article and then we'll discuss it. And I quote, "Following the debate 4 years ago on whether COVID-19 originated in a lab leak or an infected animal, a distinguished scientist said publicly, 'I prefer not to know.' This confession from one of the most esteemed astrophysicists in the world shocked me, since it is undoubtedly important for the sake of public health and safety to know whether the virus came from a lab leak." Second quotation, and I quote, "Experts often prefer to avoid new information because it creates a cognitive dissonance with their past set of beliefs. They keep away from information that does not flatter their ego or stature, which rest on past knowledge. After a colloquium about Oumuamua, the first reported interstellar object from outside the solar system, a colleague of mine said, 'Oumuamua is so weird. I wish it never existed.' In contrast, after hearing the colloquium, I was eager to retrieve as much data as possible about Oumuamua, whatever it is, out of raw curiosity." I find this dynamic really fascinating. The proposition that some people would prefer a truth about our reality not to be true, or don't even want to start wading into the waters of potentials that challenge our scientific understanding of the universe. And perhaps there's no topic at all that one can cite that has more potential to do just that than the UFO topic. It's my opinion that we are absolutely moving toward a post-disclosure world. If I am correct that some UAP represent non-human intelligence and it's been covered up, then by definition, I have to be correct. Because to me, the idea that the policy of secrecy can endure indefinitely is ironically pretty naive. People say that I'm naive. Well, I can turn that on its head very easily and say, hey, if you actually believe some of these UAP that people all over the world see stem from non-human intelligence, and our intelligence and military community knows this is true, even though it's a small segment of our intelligence and military community, then don't tell me that this secrecy is going to persist forever. That seems pretty naive to me. Secrecy, especially secrecy of this kind that affects all of us and that is essential knowledge, cannot persist forever. So sooner or later, the policy of secrecy will unravel. It cannot persist indefinitely. That's fantasy land. So it's my opinion that we are in a new phase of this process, as I've covered. And I don't think there's a whole lot of good arguments to support the idea that this is just a replication of the past and there's nothing new here and we haven't made progress. As I pointed out, George Knapp and Dr. Robert Hastings have a big difference of opinion on that perspective, and they would know as much as anybody else who thinks they're the smartest person in the room when it comes to UFO history and this topic in general. One of the most fascinating components I think that we are going to experience as we passage into a post-disclosure world, it's not just going to be learning about these other species, consciousnesses, craft, what their agendas are, the abduction phenomenon, and so forth, but it's going to be witnessing how people all over the world respond to this new emergence of truth. That they're like kind of like, you know, I know that Lue Elizondo cites like when we learned about germs. Prior to that, we did not know about the microorganism kingdom. So this would be like another kind of discovery. Very similar in a sense. We learned about a whole nother kingdom that is part of our biosphere, regardless of where it comes from. That to me, you know, seeing how our skeptics and our scientific institutions and our theologians respond to this emergence is going to be absolutely fascinating. I predict some people are going to move the goalposts. Some people are going to be preoccupied in saving face, so they're going to start focusing in other areas to make it look like their miscalculations weren't as serious as they actually are. Some people are going to be like, whoa, I got it wrong. I did not give as much weight to this topic as I should have. Some people will be very humble in that regard. Some people will be angry. Some people will be defensive. Some people will be confused, and maybe we will all be a little bit of all of these things. But part of the shift, I suppose, is not just learning about other intelligences in our biosphere and that we are nowhere near the apex predators, but it's going to be the clash of our psychology with this reality and all of the debates and arguments that emerge that were never here before. I'll give you one example of a debate or discussion that we really haven't indulged in because there's been a cover-up. When we do get UFO disclosure, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. Maybe you're correct. I'm only telling you my perspective. It will indeed challenge religious dogma, and in a very simple way. And I'll probably write an article about this at some point, because it will underscore how many civilizations probably exist in our universe that are as smart as us, if not smarter. And so any given religion on our planet might be the ultimate truth. But then again, any given religion on our planet will have to compete against the millions, billions, or trillions of religions in the universe, which may have their own miracles. You know, maybe these other religions had their own revelations amongst hundreds of thousands of people, and it really happened. You know, theoretically, if that's the case, then which revelation in this vast cosmos is true? And what if their what if the morals of other worlds, their spiritual traditions aren't necessarily completely aligned with us? If that's the case, I would not say we need to throw out our religions. I'm not here to eradicate religions or to recommend eradication of religions. But I don't think it's a bad thing if we become more skeptical about the inerrancy, if that's the right word, of our religions. I personally don't think that's a bad thing. I tend to be really skeptical that there's any particular revelation that is completely flawless. It is untainted by the human mind. And it is the absolute truth that everyone is judged by. I just personally find that highly unlikely, but that's just my subjective opinion. The point is, a post-disclosure world is going to be really, really exciting and multifaceted. And don't lose sight of how amazingly fascinating it's going to be to see how our media, our movies, our music, our conversations, our thinkers, our philosophers are going to respond to this revelation that is going to be extremely disruptive. But it's also going to be, I would argue, extremely unifying and spiritually expansive. I guess I have the bias that when we learn about this other presence and the fact that they've been here for a long time, and we've gone decades without our institutions acknowledging them, that's mind-blowing. That's mind-expansive. We'll all be better on the other end of this, I think. I would flip the coin on people in the intelligence community that are so obsessed with maintaining the status quo because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. But I would argue that look what's happening in our world. Maybe in this case, the devil we don't know is a better bet than the devil we know. And with that, we'll call it a day. I'm so happy that I'm uploading another video. I love uploading videos, and thank you for everyone who gave me encouragement in my last video where I talked about my struggle with sleep and concentration. It means a lot to me, and I really appreciate your thoughts and prayers. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You can give me a one-time donation. All of these potentialities can be accessed in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy, and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.